Years ago, I was hired by a small business to handle all the accounting and payroll. The receptionist, let's call her Karen, had basic receptionist duties. She'd sneer at employees, attempt to bully them, and if you weren't in Karen's good graces, things you needed done, packages sent out, appointments made, office supplies ordered, stuff a receptionist does, somehow took way longer than they should.
Years ago, I was hired by a small business to handle all the accounting and payroll. We had about 10 of us in the office, 4 more in the shop out back, and about 50 workers in the field on various jobs. I had 2 people that I supervised, and I reported directly to the owner. The receptionist, let's call her Karen, had basic receptionist duties, and she occasionally ran some errands for the owner and his wife, picking up their dog from the groomer-type things. Karen had this queen bee thing going on because she'd worked with the owner since the beginning. She'd sneer at employees, 2 minutes late in the morning? You'd get a raised eyebrow and a dramatic lifting of the arm and tapping her watch, attempt to bully them. Owner would tell her to ask me to do something. She'd come into my office with a smirk and act like she was laying down the law. And if you weren't in Karen's good graces, things you needed done, packages sent out, appointments made, office supplies ordered, stuff a receptionist does, somehow took way longer than they should. It got to the point where instead of dealing with her personality, we'd just do her tasks ourselves just to avoid friction. One thing the owner liked to do when he was at Costco was get a box of granola bars, candy bars or other snacks and put it in the kitchen area for everyone to grab one for a treat. One day the owner brought a box of Snickers in, and Karen bounded with glee to the kitchen. As she walked by my office, I noticed she had grabbed a bunch of them and was trying to quickly get back to her desk. Later that day one of the shop guys, Kevin, came in and I told him to grab a Snickers bar from the kitchen on his way out. Kevin chuckled and said, "Does Karen know about them? If she does there won't be any left." He mentioned that every time the boss brings some snacks in, she grabs a bunch and hoards them in her desk. Sure enough, in the kitchen there was only one candy bar left out of the whole box. Now, this is the kind of thing I usually just roll my eyes at and go on living my life. And I did. New box of treats? There she goes to the kitchen. Honestly, who really cares? Until a couple months later. The owner called me into his office and wanted to talk about this huge tax penalty notice we had received in the mail. Turns out, Karen had gone through and opened the mail on my desk. A big no-no, saw this juicy problem and instead of putting it back on my desk as she should have, ran it to the owner to try and throw me under the bus. What had happened was, the state had implemented a new system and it spat out these tax penalty letters to every business in the county. It was a mistake. We'd filed and paid everything on time. But I had about 15 minutes of panic while I dug the file out and we called the assessor's office to straighten everything out. Oh, now it's on. Sometime later, Karen was out running some errands for the owner, and I saw him at her desk looking for paper clips. I saw an opportunity. I helpfully looked with him until we came to a drawer with her candy stash. Friends, it was like opening a treasure chest. There were about 35 to 40 candy bars that Karen had squirreled into there from various boxes the owner had brought in over the last couple of months. The owner got real quiet, then grabbed all the candy bars and laid them out on his desk in his office. He'd immediately figured out how when he buys a box of 30 or so candy bars for 10 people in the office, it's emptied quickly. Later, Karen came back to the office. She put all her stuff down and opened her drawer to get herself a treat. Her face went from confusion to shock when she saw the drawer was empty, to white as a sheet when just then the owner came out and said, "Karen, can you come to my office for a minute?" According to the owner, she had reasoned that she was owed a fair share of the candy, because she claimed that she worked harder than anyone else around the office. So, whenever a new box was opened, she would just take her share and put them in her drawer. Over time her share had grown to as many as she could carry back to her desk without looking silly. Karen was given a formal reprimand and was told that if he brought any candy in, she had to wait a day for everyone else to get one before she could take one. She was very quiet and fairly decent from then on out. She mostly behaved for the next couple of years until I moved on to another job. It was particularly funny to watch her facial expression when the owner brought in a new box of candy. Like a scolded puppy. But the best part? The owner went out to the shop with the candy bar cash and gave them all to the guys out there. Kevin came in the next day with a big grin and told me that Snickers was the sweetest candy bar he'd ever eaten.